This is Bill McMinn from Eagleville Bible Church, and this is the Way to Go podcast, where we talk about faith, family, and daily life, putting the Bible into practical, everyday terms. Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I'm here with Eric Barfell. We're talking about Christmas songs, and specifically in this podcast, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day, which was written in 1863 by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And the interesting thing about is a backstory of the song, because his wife had died in 1861, 2 years prior, and she was sealing envelopes, letters with wax, and putting like the wax and a stamp on the back, I would imagine. And somehow in that, she caught her clothing on fire. And her husband tried to like save her and put it out. In fact, they said his look changed forever, because after that he grew a beard, because he got burned trying to put it out. Like, that's how bad it was. So he was burned himself, trying to get the fire out. She died the next day. He was so sick, like he couldn't even make the funeral for his wife. And then his adult son insisted on going into the Civil War, which was raging at the time. His dad didn't want him to go, but he did go. He ends up getting wounded, like a bullet went right through shoulder to back, nicked his spine. He did survive it, but it took him a long time to recover. And so this is in 1863. In 1862, the between years, he wrote in his journal about that he just could not, he wasn't finding his peace. He wasn't finding his happiness. So he wrote, "A Merry Christmas, say the children, but that is no more for me." Like, that's how he felt about after his wife of 18 years after she had passed away. He goes, "Yeah, I hear the kids singing a Merry Christmas. That's not for me anymore." And you wonder how many people feel that way, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Merry Christmas, not for me. What do you think about that?
Bah humbug.
Bah humbug. Even if they're not like bah humbug on the kids saying it, they're just, I don't know, they're just weighted down.
Yeah, no, and honestly, in my opinion, I think we see a lot of stores open. Like, back in the day, places were closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, maybe the day after Christmas Eve,
right?
Because, just holiday and everything. My opinion, I think because of so much like family dysfunction, people are alone anyways. They're like, yeah, I'll come in and work. So it's like, do places really even close? I feel like they have like limited hours, and I strongly believe that's because of so much family dysfunction, divorce. People are alone, and they're like, you know what, boss, I'll run the store anyways, or I'll schedule me anyways. It's either that or sit at home by myself, or the kids are off at the other spouse, or whatever the situation is. Again, it's just my opinion. I don't really have evidence per se, but I think that's a lot to do with it, definitely. Right. Which I hate. You ask me how I think about it, I hate it.
That part of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's
not
terrible.
Christmas. Just the people are lonely.
The fact that people are lonely and they'd rather like go to work on the holiday because
I didn't realize places were open. I didn't think anyone was open on Christmas. So
more and more each year. Absolutely.
Okay. When we went, I would always go back home when my dad was alive. Still, I would always be with my family on Christmas Day. My brothers, my mom, dad. I would take, of course, my wife and my kids, and we'd all go. I remember one day there was a Christmas on Sunday. And so I preached that morning, and then I left. And I'm like, I was in such a hurry to get home. It's a 5-hour drive. And I just said, you know what? Don't even worry about lunch. We'll get something on the way home. Yeah. There was nowhere open on Christmas.
Right.
Gas stations were.
Yeah.
Like, you could get gasoline, but you couldn't. There was no McDonald's open. There was no one open. I didn't think about it. I'm like, right, even for the travelers, there was nothing. Yeah. But now you're saying maybe they would be open.
Yes.
On Christmas, some of them anyway.
I think it's probably more in the last 5-8 years or so. I think it's increasingly more.
Wouldn't it be sad if you think about how hard a time people are having getting people to work at all?
Oh, yeah, right.
On Christmas Day makes it even that much worse.
No, I think some certain places, like maybe gas stations, it's like more regular.
Right.
Or they have like one, skeleton crew or whatever. Or I think about like movie theaters, because sometimes families like just go to the movies on Christmas or whatever. We did that once, I'll be honest. So some places, they might be open anyways, but I don't think it's like your local CVS pharmacy. Like, it's like you don't really need to be, but they are.
Yeah, but I think that, like you said, there's a lot of pain and angst. And you do see it. I mean, increasing violence in the country.
Oh, yeah.
More division, more people just doing their own thing, less things to cement. It would be sad if even Christmas isn't something that's cementing us together culturally.
Yeah.
Because there are very few things that like Star Spangled Banner is one of the reasons I didn't really care for a lot of the protests there. I'm like, well, man, it's one of the only things that we sing together.
The national anthem.
Yeah. National anthem. It just one of the few things that we did collectively, if you were at a game, and then to think like, well, we're not even going to do that anymore. There's not a lot to unite us. I would say that Christmas is one of the days that should be uniting us.
Yeah.
A time of good cheer, a time when even Charles Dickens wrote about it in A Christmas Carol, that it was the time of year where if there was no other time of year, then people are going to be more concerned about their fellow sojourners in life. They were more apt to look after their fellow man at that time of year.
Yeah.
So you would hope that we would never lose that sense, really.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. I remember in high school taking a look, we always did like a food drive, fundraiser, whatever. And I remember the math teacher was like, yeah, it kind of stinks that like some people's Christmas presents are like you and me's deodorant and shampoo and like basic hygiene stuff.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Right.
She's like, oh, I love Christmas. Christmas shouldn't be the stuff you need. It should be the stuff you want, or like, whatever, to some effect like that. It's like, yeah, absolutely. But, we can feed people, give them a meal, serve or whatever in whatever capacity, even if it's for extra credit for, us as students. It's like, this is a good thing to be a part of and serve the community and people in need.
I have a thing on lean times. I mean, there came a time in life where you were happy to get clothing. And when you were a kid,
it was not the time when I was happy to get clothes.
No. By the time we got to be teenagers, we were happy for anything, that we got that way. But I would say Christmas morning was like always a special time. It was a time of joy and hanging with the family. I know for our family, we look forward to it. We'll cook fondue. It's like the one time a year we do it.
Yeah.
Everything's cooked that way. And it's just fun, and it gives a chance for the family to be together. And I super look forward to it. But I also realized that I'm in a place where there have been years where my daughter, when she was a guard, had to work on that day. My son-in-law may have to work on that day, may not. It just depends. But there are certain jobs that never quit. And like power plants, they're not going to be shut down. Hospitals are not going to be shut down. Gas stations probably not going to be shut down on Christmas Day. There's certain places that don't. But even still, you think about this guy, and he's just hurting. His wife died, his son's injured, and they would hear, and it was a day in society where the church bells meant more. Like sometimes you'll still hear, like they'll put, they're not really by the bells anymore. They're by speaker systems and sound systems, and they'll just play. And Rock Creek used to do it all the time. You would hear the bells. And I've been in towns before where you'll hear a certain Christmas song played out on the bells. So he's talking about, I heard the bells on Christmas Day. The bells he's talking about is not a bell choir. The bells are in the steeples. Like he hears them. The churches would be celebrating Christ. They would actually have people in church, and they're ringing out, you know what I mean? The bells and the sounds. And I heard the bells on Christmas Day. Their old familiar carols play, and mild and sweet their songs repeat, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. So he realizes they're singing out the Christmas carols at that time, at Christmas time. And the bells are ringing like a choir. They're singing peace on earth. Casting Crowns actually has a great rendition of this song. In my heart, I hear them, peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. But the bells are ringing like a choir singing. Does anyone hear them? Peace on earth, goodwill to men. And so he's like, yeah, they're singing it out. But he goes, there's no peace on this earth. Oh, peace. He's thinking of the Civil War is still waging, is raging. People are getting killed. Like his son was injured. He's thinking about the things that he's been through. It's like, where's the peace?
Right. Absolutely.
And you could hear people thinking that. You know what I mean? Like it just has that feel of just spiraling out of control. It's just getting darker and darker. And even in our divided world today, you can think about how many people just kind of war at each other and fight about just about everything there is to fight about. And sometimes you hear about it in families where there's just no peace there and they're not getting along. And that's a sad thing, so you think about family turmoil even.
Yeah, no, and it kind of brings me back to, it was probably last time I was on the podcast with you, in light of Thanksgiving, we talk about with inflation, with all that's going on in our world today, that there's loads of things to complain about.
Right.
In your own personal world, in the world at large, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, absolutely. There's always something to complain about. There's loads of things. You don't have to look very far to complain about something. But at the same time, that's a very, how do I say this? Very inward focused thinking.
Right.
Whereas no, look beyond that. Look at how God has blessed you. Look at where God, point out where God is working, where the Spirit is moving. And there's always something to be thankful for.
Right.
For that reason, for no other reason.
Right. No, I agree. But it is a despairing time, in despair, I bow my head.
Sure.
In despair, I bow my head. He's just discouraged. I think the bowing of the head is, we think of that in prayer, but I think for him, I don't think you're praying there's no peace per se. I mean, your head's bowed because you're discouraged. And disheartened about what's going on. And sometimes I hear problems in families. I hear about them not getting along. I hear about so-and-so didn't go to their own kid's wedding or their own grandkid's wedding. And you wonder, how does it come to this, that families aren't even talking to each other, that families don't want to get together?
That's a good question.
I've always felt like there's just more, sometimes the things that we make important, you die someday, that's not going to be important.
Right.
Like who said what, when.
Right.
So to me, to have peace, to work towards peace, which I think can be part of it, for finding peace in Christmas Day, is making sure we're doing our part to bring peace. I'm very fortunate. I don't see my brothers on Christmas Day. I'm not fortunate because I don't see them. I'm fortunate there are no problems.
Yeah.
So I don't get to see my brothers, but there's no problems with my brothers. We get along, and anytime we're ever together, there's always peace.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because we're just happy to be together. We're happy to hang, happy to talk. And I found a long time ago that one of the kind of secrets to that was you're not there to critique how they live. You're not there to question anything. You're just there to see them. What they choose to give their kids, how they choose to raise their kids, how they celebrate, do Christmas, how they decorate any of it, all of it, has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm there is to see them and say hey and be there with my brothers.
Yeah, absolutely. So. No, and that's a good perspective to have. It's you're not here to coach them and judge and critique it. No, that's a good point.
Right.
No, I mean, I think back to especially in my later high school years when both my older brother and sister were off at college. I mean, it was awesome to have them come back.
Right.
I mean, only for the week and a half or whatever it was that their college break was, but it was fantastic.
Right.
Man, because it wasn't just me and my younger brother beating heads, and there was some buffer between us. But no, that was always great to have everybody. It still is to this day. It
is, absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of nieces and nephews. There's a handful of nieces and nephews in the picture now, so it's it's like the best part of seeing everybody.
But I think it's a choice too. To me, it was a choice to get along. It's a choice to be at peace. A choice to hear and
to stay there too,
and be sensitive. Absolutely. But then he talks about, again, does anyone hear these choirs singing? Then rang the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men. And then ringing, singing on its way, the world revolve from night to day. A voice, a chime, a chant sublime, of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And I just think about what an important concept that is at Christmas time, right there. I mean, the angels announce it. There's God's favor rests on you. Peace on earth. This is what God wants. And he kind of realized that God's still in control. And even though his wife died, even though his son was injured, he has to still come back to the fact God's in control. I'm not in control of this. Absolutely. God's in control. Because God's not dead, I can have peace and I can just content myself to rest. And that didn't mean he would never miss his wife. He wrote a poem about her 18 years later. 18 years after she died, he wrote a poem about it, how much he missed her and how different it was without her and what a hard thing that was. But you can still, even when you have struggles, doesn't mean you can't find peace.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, is that his name?
Yeah, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, famous poet actually in America. So in your literature literature classes, courses, I mean, he would be a big name. I mean, he's one that I always heard. I was actually always kind of surprised that he was the one who wrote the song. And this one, I heard, The Bells on Christmas Day, actually is one of my favorite of the Christmas hymns, even though I don't. Casting Crowns, Echo Smith sings it. Casting Crowns sings it. There's a lot of big bands that actually sing the song, but sometimes I would feel like I don't think the song gets enough play. Like it doesn't get enough. What would be the word? Notoriety or attention. Maybe is the right word for it. Where I felt like, man, this song here, this really hits people where they live. It's there. Yeah, there's a struggle. There's things going on. There's war. But it's okay because God's not dead and he's not sleeping. Yeah. So then the world, because I realize God's not dead and he's still alive and well, it revolves from night to day. Where I'm in a dark period, there's light shining because of the truth of God. And really through the Christmas carols and the Christmas songs, I believe a lot of reality, a lot of truth about God, and even in our own hearts, when we're feeling overwhelmed or busy or like, wow, am I going to make it? Can we get everything done we got to do? Whatever it is, or you think of all the things in the season, because it's very busy in the season because there's just a lot happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's actually a lot to complain about. Talk about hanging your head in despair, bowing your head in despair. Yeah. But also, I mean, let's, in our despair, like, we can come back to God, cry out to God, find that hope, and realize it's not all about us though, too.
And don't try to control all things. It's just hey, sometimes it is what it is, and I have no idea this Christmas at this moment. Like, I'm really not sure who's going to be there on Christmas Day. Who I'm going to see Christmas Eve, who I won't. It's going to be what it's going to be, and whatever it is, and I'm going to be happy, and I'm going to make it work for everybody the best that I can. And I try not to just live easy with all that stuff. If my daughter on Thanksgiving Day, hey, Dad, I don't think I'm going to see you on Thanksgiving Day. That's okay. You know why?
Right.
Because I saw you Wednesday night, because I'm going to see you on Friday, because I'm going to see you on Saturday, because I saw her on Sunday.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to see you all the time. It's okay. If you got other obligation you got to do, because I want my kids to be at peace. I want them to be free to do what they need to do.
Splitting time with family's tough, especially, I mean, like having family 8+ hours away is tough.
That's your boat. Yeah. And you're going to be traveling
and stuff. So
peace on earth, man. Peace on earth. Going to see family.
No, and I have a great relationship with them, and it's never really been a big issue of splitting time. They understand, which I greatly appreciate as well. So
No, it's good. Yeah. Because every other year you'll get to be there. Like, it's for us as a pastor, as a fellow pastor, I know that every other year I'm not going to get to see Eric on Christmas Eve.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like, I'm not going to see him on that day. And, I feel like we make that sacrifice too.
Yeah, definitely.
As fellow pastors, because I'm like, no, I understand how important it is for your wife to be in Wisconsin with her family. Your family lives an hour and 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
Not as bad, but hers is a longer way. So I always want to have that generosity, not saying, no, tough.
Definitely.
Locked in. You're a pastor. You can't go see her, because I'm like, no, I'm never going to be that way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I get it. You got family far away.
I also appreciate.
And I respect that, But anyway, I think God's in control. I think the fact that God works all things together for good in all circumstances, he is working. And again, peace doesn't mean it's not hard.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean we don't have struggles. I often look at life like this. It's like your mutual funds. You hope that most of your mutual funds are going up. Chances are something's going down. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, chances are something went down. You're hoping to have more good. And I look at life that way sometimes. It's a lot of times when we're upset about something, like something went wrong and we're upset about something. It could be a car breakdown. Could be a bill we didn't expect. Could be a family emergency, something else we didn't expect. And we'll make it the whole world about that, forgetting, well, you got a lot of stocks going up too. Like you have a lot of good going on.
Definitely. And
typically the problem that you're going through is not everything. It's something, and it's hard. It's not the whole world. It's not all of life. It's just that part of life. And you want to try to keep your balance. I mean, you've been hiking before. Sometimes on a hike, what's your role? Your biggest thing? Keeping your feet under you.
Right.
And not falling. You know what I'm saying? And that's the struggle to keep your balance if you trip over something, if your foot slips and your other foot, all of a sudden your feet are just moving like some kind of cartoon or, dance you didn't intend to do because you're just slipping all over the place, just trying to keep your balance. And I think in life, sometimes it's like that. It's like, some things might cause you to slip and you start to get discouraged and you're trying to just keep your balance by remembering, hey, it's not everything. It's okay. There's still a lot of good going on. I know I've got this problem, and I know that rots, and that's on my mind and my heart. But you know what? Let the light of all these other good things flood into my heart too.
Right. And keep going.
Right.
And that's a key thing too.
Have to. Yeah, I mean, in this season is a season to remember God sent his son, that God loves us, and that brings peace, right? I mean, he sent, just the fact that he sent his son, I think of the gifts bring peace, the lights, the time with family and friends, it's such an incredibly special time of year. It really is.
Right. Yeah. No, we can be at peace because it's not about who we are and what we've done. It's about who God is and what he's done.
Right.
Right.
Right. Absolutely. Well, the first song we did in another podcast, it just, that whole idea of, I think the light of Christmas is not about me. Mm-hmm. It's about others and doing for others. And the relationships that I have are far more important than the things that I have.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you got to keep that in perspective too. The things I have or the people in my life are more important than the things in my life. For sure. Just keep it all in perspective. So I always love Christmas and one of my absolutely favorite seasons. Like I'm not one of those people that I can't wait till Christmas is over. It's just so terrible. Like you never hear that from me, man. I love Christmas. My kids know I'm like the biggest Santa there is. I always love to spoil them with gifts, and Jerry too, and they all know it. They're always trying to keep raps on me, you know what I mean? Because of what I'm liable to do. You put that wallet in my pocket, and how many gifts I'm liable to buy. But I'm trying to be careful this year, actually. But I just love it so much. I love every aspect of it. I really do.
Oh, definitely. It's great.
On the other hand, not acknowledging, there are problems for sure. There's hurts and there's heartaches and, but still peace. Seek God's peace. He is not dead. He does not sleep. Let the night revolve into day. We appreciate you tuning in and hopefully we've inspired you to listen to a few songs maybe you haven't listened to in a while, or to actually decide, you know what, I haven't listened to much Christmas music this season. I think I'm going to tune in a little bit more. Even from that perspective would be a win, because that always helps me this time of year to put me in that good Christmas spirit, just listening to Christmas music. You have an awesome and a blessed week.